Welcome back to the Scaling SaaS podcast, real conversations with founders building the next wave of AI powered products. Today, I'm joined by Itai Virk, co-founder and CTO of Stonki AI, an AI-driven platform that helps traders turn plain English ideas into structured strategies and real-time monitoring. Itai, great to have you here. How's everything in Israel today?
Hey Brad, it's good to be here. Today's nice. I mean, weather has been quite cool. It's been hot and now it's transitioning back to the cool weather, so it's nice. It's good to be here.
That's great. So what is it like? So here in November, that's typically fall. Do you have, is it like the same? On that side of the world, you're pretty far away, but is it aligned? The seasons aligned still?
The seasons are supposed to be aligned, but this year has been crazy. It's just summer. I mean, look, it's coming to December, and it's still summer basically.
Yeah, we're kind of doing the same thing here in Austin. So it's always interesting to see how the weather changes. But all right, well, let's get started. So talk to me about your journey. What led you to build Stonky AI?
So I've started as a backend engineer, like doing internships back in like 2020, during my bachelor's degree. And I got into the stock market also around that time. So, it's about 5 years ago. Um, I kind of also always wanted to get into data science, besides just, backend engineering and stuff like that. So, having this, getting into the stock market, I didn't get into it in a very, um, conventional way, because usually people start out with like passive investing, putting some money aside every month. I just dove straight into a data science project trying to predict whether insiders, because they disclose their purchases and sales of their own stock, um, like if they meet certain criteria, I wanted to check if that could give some alpha and I could basically make a strategy out of it. So, it was pretty hard starting out. I didn't know much about data science or the stock market, and a lot of it was actually in penny stocks, which is not a good way to get into it. Um, so I kind of started from there, and it was also like the corona uh, virus just started hitting, and the market was super volatile, which kind of this is why I'm not a conventional buy and hold, because I was born kind of into this volatility, and this is
Hmm.
why I also like to trade. So yeah, I mean, doing some data science in that project, also later joining an MLOps team for a couple years. Um, then I got into options trading, and I did some more research around the time ChatGPT came out and became big. I was deep in the like Llama 1 models and trying to fine tune them. Um, I did some more time, like a couple years as a ML engineer, doing like everything from DevOps to like research and production end to end. And then, I started Stonky about, well, officially it was half a year ago, a little bit more, trying to bring this knowledge I have for AI and also trading to help more people get into it and make sense of it.
Awesome. So were you, so this wasn't like a personal tool that you were building for yourself, and then you decided maybe it could be more than that, that you'd always intended Stonky to be something for other people to kind of take what you've learned and kind of automate some of that process.
Yeah, well, actually, obviously, I did it for myself at first, but then I said, why not share it with others? So, right, like exactly a year ago, around the time MCP protocol came out, I said I can hook up Claude to my brokerage using the API, and I made a Medium article about it. I released the MCP to open source, made a video. The video did quite well. I mean, it was like the first video I did on YouTube, and it got like 7,000 views, which is not bad, for a first video.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and I mean, people were really into it, and it was early. Like people didn't really understand tool use at that time. So I saw the traction, and I also got contacted by some people who wanted to make it into a product. And this is also how I found my co-founder.
Interesting. So for someone that's not a trader, like what's the simplest way to explain what exactly Stonky does and how can that help kind of, someone like me? I'm not really a trader. We invest in other things. I've actually did a little research into options a long time ago. I just don't think I'm smart enough for that. It was super complicated. I thought I had it, but then as it got complicated, it was just the option or the calls and the puts and the I was just it was too much for me. So anyway, what would be the simplest way you explain like what Stonky is, for someone like myself?
So what it is now, it's basically an assistant that's a little bit proactive, but it basically makes every part of the investing and trading cycle easier. So when you first look for a new investment or a new trade, you gotta search for the opportunities. You go search the web or some scanners that you set up, or you check the social media for some stuff you want to invest or trade. Stonky helps automate a lot of that and kind of distill a lot of noise into something that would fit you personally as an investor or a trader. But more than that, it also helps to analyze and dive deep into each setup and gives like exact plans and risk management tips, uh, profit targets, all that stuff. And what makes us unique is actually we automate the monitoring as well. So not just the entry, not just the well, for passive investors, it's a little bit less of a concern because they just put money in every couple months or just buy and forget about it. But you need to remember that the market is extremely volatile. I mean, if you've been following, it can move 1 or 2% easily every day. And investors who want to have an edge and not just market perform, they need to do a little bit more than just holding, in my opinion. And that involves hedging when the risks are on. I guess timing their entries a little bit better, following what they're holding and not just forgetting about it. And for traders, it's a lot about discipline as well, not just good analysis. And Stonky helps kind of conserve your conviction about a trade or an investment and move with it until you take it off.
So so it's basically I'm just thinking like for me what I would struggle with normally not using Stonky. So just kind of are you basically saying like the timing, it helps with the timing of when to buy or when to sell? It can also help with just understanding terminology, and can it kind of teach me about investing as well?
Yeah, we're working on more features that would help beginner investor and traders or people who are less knowledgeable. At the moment, it's more suited for experienced traders and investors, but we are working on some of these features. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it can help you understand what you're doing better. Because at the end of the day, it's a language model, and it knows a lot of stuff. Um, but basically, for example, you mentioned options. So we have a bunch of option strategies that we kind of baked into it, and it could help you get into options. And for the more experienced options traders, it could help them manage because a big problem for options traders is they just need to manage a lot of strategies at the same time, and sometimes you miss some things you gotta do. Stonky kind of codes your strategy into actual Python code and can monitor your risk or remind you when to do all that stuff. And this is at the moment, but we're working on some stuff to make it even better.
Really incredible. So like what would somebody what would something I, I'm trying to ask the right question here. So it understands the market logic, like just right out of the gate. I mean, is that something that you built for it to understand that, or like how did you get from pulling in the data and then using an LLM to then translating into investment strategies?
Um, well, LLMs, as it turns out, they're good at finance. Um, and you can see that big companies like Anthropic and OpenAI are working on making it actually do proper financial research like they do in investment banking. If you've been following Anthropic, you've seen that a few months ago they released Claude for Finance, which is like financial research for enterprise using Claude. So that area is moving forward, like total market understanding, but that's more like fundamental stuff, like a fundamental analysis of companies. In Stonki, it basically all started from technical analysis. Then we integrated fundamental as well, and sentiment, which is essentially the three most important things that drives, stock price, basically. So for an investor that, wants to take some risk off when when the market is a little bit frothy or there are some concerns, uh, if they don't know about options, what you can do is actually check option pricing with forward, because sometimes you can see by the option pricing and option metrics if the market is pricing in a big move or like a lot of risk. So if you have some proactive assistant, replacing a traditional human investment advisor, you can actually look into that and kind of piece a lot of the like put together a lot of the pieces of the puzzle to make it more comprehensive what you're doing.
Interesting. So is it out for public? I mean, is it a beta or is it completely out in the public?
Yeah, it's out. You can use it today. We have a free tier which is quite limited. You get 10 messages or 8, something like that. And we also limit the amount of alerts you can have. But then we have a higher tier which lets you do unlimited chats, but still limited on the alert side. And then you have the bigger tier which lets you do everything.
So when you first started, what kind of feedback did you get that really let me rephrase that. Did you get any feedback from users that substantially changed the product in one way or another? Or was it just kind of, moving in the direction that you wanted and some minor feedback to kind of help to move it along?
Yeah, so it's a good question. We first released the product as a beta in Discord. We had a Discord server we set up, and people could chat to Stonky for free using a Discord bot. Um, we got it wasn't like huge, but we got about 500 users trying it out, and about 40 to 50 weekly who stuck to it. And we saw the patterns, and we had like feedback sessions, and we did have some interesting insights that people had. Um, Mostly people wanted the active monitoring, which it kind of also where we were heading, because like I said, Anthropic and OpenAI and the LLMs generally, they get better at research and analysis, but I doubt they will start getting into like what financial platforms do, which is, it's got a lot of infrastructure on the back end for streaming the data and, cleaning it. It's a lot of what like quant firms do. So we were kind of, people wanted because people got their trading plans and like we call them recipes now, but it's basically a structure plan of how you should execute a trade or an investment. People wanted to follow up on that because they used to forget it. And that's also what I experienced myself. So we did put a lot of resources on this active monitoring system, which in my opinion, I mean, it's quite innovative. I mean, I haven't seen any competitor that does something similar, which we basically turn the trade into code and that code runs anything. So, it can run technicals, or I even saw some people reading cool Medium articles on some new indicator they read about, like some risk indicator, and actually using Stonky to code it into an alert for them. So it's really quite diverse what people can use it for. But this area of active monitoring, which later actually the only puzzle piece that's missing from the system is the actual trading execution, like the order execution. And if you think about it, once you have that, I mean, it's just a trading system that kind of operates on its own, and the user can operate it using natural language. Because the agent has this loop where it knows when to activate itself, and based on this trading guidelines, it knows also when to execute the trades.
So is that essentially what the recipe is? It's your kind of container for all of those instructions on how to build whatever it is the user puts in natural language. Then Stonky essentially creates a recipe, what you call a recipe for what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, right. A recipe, think of it like if you go to Claude and you work on some, I don't know, like a blog post, it doesn't put it in a message. It puts it on an artifact on the side, and then you can iteratively
Yep.
change it, right? This is the same narrative we have with recipes, which are an artifact that persists in the conversation and only gets updated as it continues. Because there's a lot of stuff we do with context management, summarization when it gets too long. We choose what to offload into long-term memory and what to bring back. But recipes, they always persist, and they always guide the agent on what tasks it should be having in the background, which we have the monitoring tasks. It's basically the alerts. They kind of complement each other because the recipes, they're like, I guess you'd say static in a sense. They don't have any code. They're just text, but they always persist in the threads. And then the monitoring, that when the agent is invoked again in the same conversation, it knows which recipe it needs to look at. And it's like a loop, basically.
Interesting. So for traders that aren't using a tool like this, I mean, what do you think their cost of inaction is? Like, is it just time? Is it missed opportunities? Is it um, slower decision making? What are they missing by not using a tool like this?
Well, definitely opportunities. Personally, that's why I built it. I was, having a full-time job, you can't really watch charts all day, uh, and you can't maintain your conviction for a long time, especially if you have a lot of positions. So by using this tool, traders can manage a lot more positions, and that means, making more money at the end of the day. And also, not missing the conviction, because one of the biggest problems I had was I would open like 20, 30, 40 positions at the same time, and I would open my app and I would feel overwhelmed because I have all these positions, but I can't really remember why I did why I opened them, or what I need to do with them, or how to manage them. So when I use Stonky, I offload my conviction to there, and then I say, okay, I have an alert waiting for this, and the alert triggers. I go into the chat and I can see why I opened this position and what I should do.
Imagine you probably can't imagine going back to the old way.
No, I mean, I just without Stonky, it's just it's so much time. I mean, I'm so busy with developing it, and it actually enables me to trade nowadays too. Otherwise, I would have just thrown away this trading for a while.
Yeah, I would imagine. You mentioned that it doesn't actually make the trades. Is that something that's on the roadmap, like an API or something to a Fidelity or an E Trade or some sort of brokerage account?
Yeah, we got a lot of requests from users to actually have Stonky make the trades. I mean, you would need some confirmation. Obviously, you wouldn't want it to trade completely automatically, but there's no like between having an alert and going to Stonki and then going to the brokerage and actually the agent itself sending the order and you just confirming or denying it. It's much more convenient. I guess some people would like to turn the confirmation off, but that puts us in a lot of risk. The regulation stuff. So we're not sure about that, but we also want to enable an account for Stonki and have some public strategies that we're running from our end. So imagine you're a new trader and you don't really know what to prompt. So you go on the front page and you see Stonki team strategies, and this one buys Tesla whenever Elon Musk tweets something funny, for example, or the other one browses Reddit, and every time people are bullish, it sells, and when people are bearish, it buys. Like any kind of strategy you can think of, we would automate on our end, and then having some paper account for Stonki to actually see if it's doing well or not. That would be great for new traders. Um, and hopefully we'll get this feature out soon, and because we got a lot of requests for it, basically.
It sounds like that would, kind of put the icing on the cake of what you're building, is to kind of close that last part of the loop there, to make it a truly automated trading platform.
Yeah, definitely. Not only that, it would also enable us to improve it automatically because we would kind of close the loop and then we can say, okay, this did well, this didn't do well, and we could automatically improve the trading part.
So you're using language models, AI, whatever we want to call it, inside a really complex domain. I mean, finance, trade. I mean, this is you're getting into regulations. There's all sorts of, this can be, I'm sure, super complex. In general, though, what would you say that maybe either you underestimated or maybe other founders might underestimate when they try to add m- language models into their own products?
So it's a good point because we didn't have this concern very early on because we heard of other companies who got sued for similar stuff. So we made sure to get our registered investment advisor license quite early on. And once we have that, it's less risky. Um, I mean, yeah, finance is a heavily regulated area, and I think, having something to play with and, maybe do some paper trading or, some generalized advice, is okay. But once you get into personalization and more of like trade execution, that's where you should really go to the professionals that understand regulation.
How do you balance? Because right, you mentioned this a couple of times in some previous questions, but kind of how do you balance that automation versus user control, right? Is it the benefit of your product is it's got a lot of automation, got a lot of that comes back at you, but to your earlier point, some people don't want a lot of that. So how do you make that kind of how do you get that sweet spot of automation versus user control?
Um, Yeah, it's a big challenge. I mean, you really need to first understand your users before you're making any feature, and you need to understand, okay, who is my ideal customer for this specific feature, and generally your product. So when you have the user in mind, it kind of starts coming to you whether you should have like an open input box or maybe suggestion buttons or maybe nothing at all and just looking at stuff without interacting with it. Um, it's also like a big challenge in other domains for AI because like nobody really, I think, understands um, w- when an agent should do stuff manually with confirmation or when it should actually just be a workflow and not an agent with tools. So I think first thing and most important is really understand your customer and why you're building this feature. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the key is what you said in the beginning is knowing your customer. If you're dialed in and you're getting feedback and you understand their needs, that's an easier path to walk. When you're just kind of doing it on your own, then you just never know.
Yeah, you also need to consider how bad it would be if the agent did a mistake. So, you know, they still make mistakes. They're not extremely intelligent in that regard. So you need to understand how bad would it be if I automate this, or if they made a mistake, because the same thing, like, okay, if it makes a mistake, I don't know, scheduling an alert, it's worse because people might miss something than making a mistake in not calling a specific tool or something like that. um, yeah.
So what besides the kind of the brokerage connection, like what are users asking you the most for? What are you guys thinking about tackling next? Or, what does your roadmap look like? If not don't, obviously don't divulge anything, secret, but what are you guys looking at? More integrations, more automation, anything bigger? What's the future look like for Stonky?
So I can share some of what we're doing short term and medium term. We do want to capture more of the beginner crowd, the people who don't really know how to do stuff, but rather just copy other more experienced traders. So we are making a lot of features for this crowd, which is also the biggest chunk of the investors and traders. um, and we're making also some more awesome features for options traders, because for option trading, I mean, it's a small crowd, but it's well, there's a lot of different option traders, but the more professional, not professional, but the people who know what they're doing, it's hard to come by products that actually do useful. Um, well, it's either hard to come by or it's expensive. So for this crowd, we're also making some cool features, like an actual coding agent, not just for the alerts, but for the analysis, and some interactive charting that people could look at. And hopefully we can get more people into options trading, because for me, I mean, for me, it what makes the difference. I started with stocks, and then now I predominantly do options. Just like it's a lot better.
Yeah. I do remember, options seemed a better way to go if you're not just a buy and hold, right? If you are looking to make some more short term, trades, options do seem like a good way to go with that. But I think it to your point, I mean, it's complex, and I think it's hard for even for financially intelligent people to understand. And there's a lot of concepts in options that you don't get in your everyday life, right? And so it's a very unique topic. Um, and so, but like having something there to help you along that path seems pretty cool. So obviously AI is a huge part of your product. I mean, it's essentially the crux of what you're doing. What about for the business? I mean, are you using AI operationally? Are you using it, within your own team? You know, what ways um, what ways are you seeing that AI can maybe play a bigger role to help you and your team operate more efficiently? Is it lead flow? Is it internal workflows? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we use AI basically everywhere, not just in the product. I think most importantly, being like almost a solo developer, uh, you know, AI in coding, I mean, everyone knows it's like it's where the money is. Yeah, everyone is using it some way or another. I found out that uh, the earlier you start structuring your code in a correct way, for the and more convenient way for the AI, the better. I did it quite early on, which basically enabled me to move very fast. I mean, this whole product, I had some contractors and people help out a little bit, but it was mostly solo developing. And I meant like I see that even to this day, I mean, I managed to move forward basically almost at the same pace. And everything is thanks to how I structured the code and how I enable the coding agents to have context on what it is doing within the repository, but also outside the repository. So if you have some, I saw some research saying that coding agents actually make things worse when your code is scattered around different repos, but for mono repos, it actually made teams a lot faster and more efficient. So that was my approach from the beginning, and you really have to keep in mind, like, not all the time, but when you're starting out, you need to think about how you're going to deploy things, how your dependencies are structured, and preferably put everything in the same repository unless there's absolutely no connection. This way, the coding agent, it doesn't have to use external tooling like getting documentation from GitHub or getting documentation from some other MCP that does semantic indexing on code, which also doesn't work that well. Having just Claude Code, grep, I mean, that's all you need basically up to a certain point. Um, but yeah, like I said, I mean, the more you grow, the more you're gonna branch out, and the more people you onboard, you're gonna have to do some wrapping on top of that as well. So I guess some shared knowledge base where you have to define the contracts between your different services very strictly so that when you develop features, you don't have to fix like different key in some dict you're passing around, whatever. And having tests is extremely important, both unit tests and end to end. And make sure that you are writing it and not the AI because it can do some workarounds there. And that's from the coding part. I mean, that enabled me to move fast, but also on marketing and growth. I actually use Stonky because we have the social media agent there, and it has semantics store for Reddit posts. I actually go to Stonky and I ask it, um, look for Reddit threads where you can be useful for people discussing there, So it's not just for that. I'm using the social media agent to kind of find those places where Stonky would be relevant, and then I plug some comment there, shameless self promotion or whatever, stuff like that.
No,
And
that's brilliant. I mean, you already had the agent, right? So you're just utilizing the agent, but from a marketing perspective, and so you're kind of jumping in and adding value to conversations that are already out there.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we wanted X and some other platforms too. We haven't done it yet, but customizing those emails you send users when you want them to convert, uh, it can help a lot. Uh, we have the analytics on the front end side, so because we have the coding agent in that repo, and it knows what events we track from the platform. It can also help set up the dashboard and like tell you what to look for when you want to see why people aren't converting or what people are doing on your site. So these like kind of context bridges, using some like a coding agent to build an analytics dashboard, stuff like that. If you're creative, you can make some really interesting use cases for this.
Are you running ads or anything like that? I mean, how are people finding you? Just through the social media strategy?
Yeah, we're doing mostly social media on our own. I mean, we have someone who does growth, and that's what she does. We're starting to run promotion as well, um, but we're not doing it a lot yet. So yeah,
Have you gone into LinkedIn at all? I mean, looked at from a social media perspective. I mean, it sounds like Reddit and Twitter. Have you gone onto LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn to generate some some noise there as well?
Yeah, I mean, we thought about it. I think LinkedIn is more like you wouldn't find traders there. I mean, maybe investors, sure. Yeah. But right now, I mean, we're more focused on traders, and Reddit and X is the best place to find them, basically.
How about support? How do you deal with support? I imagine, being such a small team, that could be a bottleneck for you.
Yeah, so thankfully we don't have a lot of issues. So at the moment, it's I deal with the support issues. So if there's a bug, I just go and fix it or put it in the backlog because the volume is really light. I mean, it's less than one per day, so it's not a problem. But we can easily automate it once it grows because we have our Discord where people talk about problems or just general discussions. You can easily automate it using AI, once a day or twice a day, just getting the discussions, assigning action items if it's a bug, if it's a feature request, putting it into Notion or whatever where you manage your tasks. That's a good use case for AI. And the support itself, I mean, you can also reply with AI, but people like it less. So for that part, maybe it's better to keep it human, but just make it more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, once you scale, though, it's hard to keep it human, at least in the beginning, right? In your first stage, you can obviously escalate that to higher, levels, but it's as you scale, it's harder to keep all those initial contacts, just human, at least in today's day and age.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we are out of time. This has actually been super interesting for me. Where can people follow you, find you, in the Stonky journey?
People can go on X, it's Stonky AI, or follow me on LinkedIn or Stonky on LinkedIn. That's where we post. Or go to stonky.ai and sign up.
Yeah, I might be your next sign up. Ite, this has actually been a really great conversation. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.